Welcome to the Love That Guy podcast. We are your hosts. I'm Ronnie Gene Blevins.
This is Brendan Reynolds.
He got third all for billing at the end of each picture. That don't really mean much, he would say with a grin. But he held my hand tight when he poured his name out. Only 4 or 5 names down below Errol Flynn.
We are the show that celebrates the journeyman actors, the actors we all know and love, and even though we might not always know their names, we inevitably see them in film and television and think to ourselves, love that guy.
Ronnie, good morning. How's it going?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good, man. It's good to be back in the studio.
Yeah. We got John Ashton on today.
Yeah, exciting guest. You worked with him a few times.
Yeah, I worked with John Ashton on a film called Uncle John, and I remember I was back in 2012, 2013. I was about to leave to go to the Venice Film Festival, and these two guys, Eric Crary and Stephen Pyatt, never done anything, and they were making this film for like a few $100,000. And they said that Uncle John was gonna, John Ashton was gonna be the main guy.
Name is Uncle John.
Yeah. And I went out to Wisconsin and did it. They had this great proof of concept, and it was a great script. And they didn't really have any much of a resume, but you could tell based on the proof of concept that it was going to be pretty fantastic.
Right.
And based on that movie, and John Ashton was fantastic in it. And based on that, they ended up working on like producing and directing shows for they went on to have great success.
Launched their career.
Yeah,
the filmmakers,
the director and the producer.
That's cool.
And I got to know John in the process, and he's super cool. He's been like a loyal friend and a bit of a mentor to me.
Yeah, that's exciting. He's been around forever.
Yeah.
And that was a Netflix thing, right? They picked it up after that.
Netflix picked it up, and he lives in Colorado, and he's kind of always been sort of he's just an old school guy.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
I think he moved out when his son was about Leo's age. He moved out of L.A. and kind of just been.
Where does he live?
Colorado.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
good for him. He got out early.
Yeah, exactly. But he has one of those faces, right?
Yeah, super recognizable. Everybody knows him.
Yeah, one of those faces. I remember, because back in the 80s, all these movies would just play over and over again, right? Yeah. So, and I remember one of the movies that would play over and over again was Some Kind of Wonderful.
And John Hughes, right?
John Hughes,
wrote it.
Eric Stoltz.
Yeah.
And
he's in that. Is he the dad?
Was it Some Kind of Wonderful? Wait, Some Kind of Wonderful.
I know.
Yes, was that the one where he's Eric Stoltz is in it, right?
Yeah.
And so there's a line. I hope it's Some Kind of Wonderful. But anyway, there's a line in there where Eric Stoltz and John Ashton plays his dad, and they get in a fight. And in the heat of the fight, John Ashton yells, "Where's the fucking money, Keith?" And he's just such a great, powerful,
he's real gruff.
And me and my dad and my brother, that whenever the subject of money would come up, we would always say that, like, "Where's the fucking money, Keith?"
It's like a way to break the tension around a tense subject matter.
Yeah. So I've since kind of told John that story.
That's good.
Yeah, man.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What else is new? I mean, what's going on with the industry these days?
Not
easy being a
I guess we're day 38 and no strike. Not to be a bummer, but I think that WGA has been striking for over a month now, and it looks like the actors are kind of posturing to strike if they don't get their negotiation done. So. Yeah, man.
Crucial times for everybody.
Yeah. It almost seems like the end of something.
It does. Transition time for sure. Yeah.
And I mean, I ultimately it's kind of it's something. It's just a microcosm of what's been happening everywhere.
Yeah.
The middle class is dissipating, and
AI is taking over.
Yeah, the AI. I mean, for sure. That's there's an inevitability with that. But but I think that from my vantage point, the biggest issue is with pay, you know?
Yeah, of course.
And it's just like what's happening everywhere where the middle class is getting squeezed and
cost of living's outrageous. It's crazy.
Yeah, you have the haves that are, you know, make up the 1% that are that have all the money, and the have-nots are, you know,
it's a tale of two cities.
Yeah,
in Hollywood.
Yeah, man.
And everywhere.
So I think it's definitely a kind of a watershed moment. Would you call that?
I think that works.
Yeah, I don't know. But
it's a breaking point. Things are changing for sure. Yeah.
And you know, but it's like there's just so much pain in the process.
Right, the growing,
you know, because the WGA will be like, you know, well, the strikes are supposed to be disrupted, but of course they are, but I think that it could be a little tone deaf because it's not like the producers and the heads of studios are like reading the tweet saying that strikes are supposed to be disruptive and think, oh wow, you got us because our life is super disruptive. Yeah. It's the laborers, it's the people that on day 38 of the strike, you know, the caterers and so on and so forth that
below
are like,
the line.
I can no longer do this. I can no longer wait, so I have to do something else.
Right.
You know, so when they hear, like, it's supposed to be disruptive, it's like, well, yeah, it is, obviously, but it's often disruptive.
It just seems like clickbait, like just a media invention sometimes. I mean, these producers are still going to Maui and doing their thing.
Yeah, no doubt. And who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's but you know, hopefully the other side.
Well, the unions got to step up. I mean, they gotta have those contracts redrawn and new lines drawn and protect their people. You know,
yeah,
I mean, their lawyers got to step up.
Yeah, I mean, and and there's so much unknown because it's like what, you know, at some point they're just gonna have to the studios are just gonna have to come be transparent about exactly what they're making, you know,
and how they're making it.
Yeah. Because I'll look online and you can look at like residuals you have coming up and how it's qualified and like I do, you know. And it's like I did this Natalie Portman show that comes out later this year. This Lady in the Lake.
Yeah, there you go.
And it says new media on it, you know. So it's like, oh god, that's
wait on your residual check. It says
on how it's classified. It says new media
because it's streaming.
Yeah,
but it's not going to have a.
Yeah, but if you
there's nowhere else to watch it other than
sure, but but if you look at like new media contracts specifically as it relates to residuals, it's
less rights.
Joke.
Yeah.
So I mean. Hopefully everyone gets what they want. It just feels like because I was at the stride of 2008, and even in 2008 I was working a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, certain shows were grandfathered in, and you know, but that just lasted. Maybe that did last.
2008 was just the writer's strike, right?
That was the writer's strike.
They were the only one though.
Yeah.
The only guild.
Yeah. So this is kind of shaping up to be
a big one,
maybe like the biggest one. So
crazy.
Maybe the other side is a good outcome.
It's gonna be tough for you guys for a while, but hopefully when you come out of it, you'll have more rights and protections and better pay structures coming out of it. Hopefully.
I hope so. Anyway,
John's coming up soon,
let's get into John Ashton.
Yeah.
I hope you guys liked the interview as much as we. Well, that's disingenuous because we haven't done the interview yet.
It's coming right up. We're on real time right now.
This is real time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully we all like it together. Let's touch base afterwards. And all right.
Sounds good.
Here we go. John Ashton.
All right, guys.
Our next guest has played one of the most famous movie cops in the history of cinema. He was the go-to guy for greats like John Hughes and Martin Brest in the 80s and 90s. He's an old school guy who I consider one of my closest friends. John's been both a friend and a mentor. In 2013, I met him on a movie called Uncle John where he played the title character. The movie turned out great. It went on to be a finalist for Best Film at South by Southwest and became one of the first films acquired by Netflix. He's been fantastic in all the Beverly Hills Cop films. He stole Midnight Run out from under Robert De Niro's nose. He was amazing in Gone Baby Gone, Little Big League, She's Having a Baby, and the list goes on and on. This year, he wrapped the fourth installment of Beverly Hills Cop. Under Netflix's tutelage, the franchise will continue. Welcome to the show, my brother and one of my favorite actors, John Ashton.
Yeah. How you doing, Ronnie?
Good. How you doing, Bubba?
Great to be here. Good, man. Hanging in there. You know, it's weird weather in Colorado here. You know, we get smoke from Canada. We get snow. We get everything here, man.
Hey, it looks like it's kind of sunny there, no?
Yeah, it looks nice today.
Well, actually, it's a little cloudy, but the sun's starting to come out. So
Nice.
and we're getting these huge rainstorms in the afternoon. So it's been weird, man.
Yeah. Weird times.
Yeah. You're not long for that Colorado living, are you? A little too cold for you?
I think my winter days are over, man.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't ski anymore. I don't do any of those winter sports. I'm a golfer and that's it. And when it starts snowing, I'm walking around the house.
Man. Yeah, man. That's a hell of a thing, man, to not be able to leave your house for like days at a time,
It's
particularly
tough.
when you're a golfer, because I know you're a hell of a golfer.
Yeah.
Well, I'm so happy that you're here with us, man. We've been wanting to get you on this show, and I want to start with. There's so many. We've known each other for like over a decade now, and I think about all these great stories that we have that some of probably a good 50% of we can't even say on the podcast, but
We can try.
Was Columbo your first credit or one of your first credits?
No, actually, Police Story was.
Okay.
I had, Hollywood's weird, man. So, 1973, I graduated from USC, got my degree in theater, and I was doing a lot of theater in Hollywood and stuff. And then I got a job over in Scotland, actually, in 1970. I was doing the Edinburgh Arts Festival. We did 15 different plays and repertoire, and then I was doing theater in Germany, and I did summer stock in Cape Cod, and all this other stuff. And I graduated in 73, got my degree, and I get a meeting at Paramount, and I go and meet this guy, and he says, "So what have you done?" And I said, "Well, I just got my degree in theater, and I was really proud of it and stuff." And he goes, "Yeah, but what have you done?" And he looks at me like,
Yeah.
And then that same year, about 6 months later, I won the Drama Critics Circle Award for Best Supporting Actor for A Flea in Her Ear, which is a French farce. We did it at the Company of Angels Theater.
Yeah.
I get another meeting. What have you done? And I said, well, I just won the Drama Critics Award, and I was really proud of it. He goes, yeah, but what have you done? It's like, what do I have to do here?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm working at a bar and a pool hall in South Central LA, bartending for $1.25 an hour. And a lot of the cops used to hang out there, the homicide detectives from South Central Division. And anyway, I get a call from my agent to go for this Police Story. And I just won a Drama Critics Award, and I go, okay, here we go, here we go. And I go in and they give me one piece of paper with 2 lines. It is an ambulance attendant, and I look at them, I go, what, is this it? And they said, yeah. And so I go back to the bar, and my agent called and said, well, you got it. And I said, well, I'm not doing that. And
that's going to be on your tombstone, by the way. I ain't doing that.
So I said, I'm not going to do that. There's 2 lines, and they can get a wino to do that. They don't need an actor, I'm not going to do that. So all these cops are in there, and they were going to pay me $125 for the day,
Right.
And I'm $1.25 an hour working at a bar. And these cops are going, are you crazy? That's more money you make in 3 months.
Right.
I said, I'm not going to do it. Anyway, I ended up doing it, and I regret it to this day because, Ronnie, the business, it was like forever I was getting 2-line parts, It was
Sure.
But anyway, I did, actually, I did another show on Kojak before I did the Columbo.
Oh, nice.
Okay. And I was so dismayed by the business, I was very dismayed, and I won't tell you why, but anyway, I get the Columbo, and Falk was so great. We had this scene to do, and you know how it is. I sat there all day long. We never got to the scene. So the whole crew is leaving, everybody's leaving, and there's just a light on in the sound stage, and me, and I'm packing my stuff up, and Falk comes over to me and he goes, hey, why don't we rehearse this scene we got to do tomorrow, And I went, wow, you really want to rehearse?
Wow.
And he goes, yeah. So we stayed just him and I on the soundstage, and I'm rehearsing Peter Falk, and it just restored my whole faith in the business. And
Wow.
That's so cool. He's a legend.
Yeah.
And at the end of the shoot, I gave him my script. I said, "Would you sign it? Sign my script for me." And he goes, "You're a good actor. What do you want my signature?"
That's great,
That's
man.
great.
I have my own personal reasons, Peter, and I still have the script.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's great,
That's a
man.
framer.
I still watch those old Columbos, you know.
He was the best.
That's kind of the nature, I feel like the business, it breaks you down.
Yeah.
You get disillusioned, a little despondent, and then you get these, you get these experiences with these great actors, or maybe it's an effect of the work, but it kind of gives you, it fills your heart back up with love,
Little nuggets
and
of inspiration.
sustains you until the next time you get your ass kicked by something.
It's a roller coaster.
So you graduate USC in '73, and what year do you and Ed Harris did a run of True West in California, right?
Right.
What year was that?
That was in 81.
81. So you,
Eddie and I actually had worked together in 1980 on Borderline with Charles Bronson.
Wow.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we had worked together. We knew each other, and when I got True West, they didn't have the other guy. And I finally, the director called me, said we got the other character, and I said, well, who is it? Who's going to do it? And she said Ed Harris, and I went, fantastic,
Nice.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Nice.
And
Wow.
Eddie and I both won Drama Critics Awards for that too.
Wow.
So.
Now, do you is this before you guys are? You guys are doing this play before you guys are working in the industry, or kind of as you're starting to work?
We were just starting to work, actually, and Eddie, while we were doing the show, Eddie got what is that?
The Right Stuff?
We played Dan Glenn, The Right Stuff.
Right
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
He got that while we were doing the play, actually.
Wow.
And the weird thing about that play, and I'll try to do this briefly, but the original production was done in New York with Tommy Lee Jones and Peter Boyle.
Yep.
And Sam Shepard walked out on it.
Huh.
And he told Joe Papp, "I'll never give you another one of my plays again."
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So all of a sudden, Eddie and I are doing it, and the closing weekend, Friday night, they came backstage and said, "Sam is in the audience." And we went, oh no.
No pressure.
So we do this really good performance, and we found out Sam wasn't there. So then Saturday they tell us he's there, and he wasn't there. And then finally we went, well, the hell, we had two shows Sunday, and they did the matinee, and then Sunday night was closing night.
Yeah.
And said, Sam is really here tonight. And we went, yeah. And they go, no, we saw him. He's really, really here. So I don't know if you know the play or not, but at the end of the play, Eddie wraps a phone cord around my neck and me and stuff. And we had worked it out where I could get my fingers in there, and he was behind me, and he could squeeze it as hard as he could. And Eddie, believe me, is a very strong dude.
Oh yeah,
I bet.
So he could do that. Closing night, Sam is in the audience, and he gets the cord around my lip.
Oh, no. No.
And he can't see me because he's behind me, and he's ripping the crap out of my lips, and I'm bleeding and everything.
Jesus.
So Sam comes backstage after the show. He came back to our dressing room, and he goes, "Man, you guys were terrific. What a great show." And they goes, "How'd you do that at the end every night? How do you guys do that?" Then we went out and drank beer and shot pool with him till about 6 in the morning.
Wow, man.
That's amazing.
Man, what a great memory, huh?
Yeah, that's classic.
Like that's the kind of shit that like sustains you, right? You know what I mean? You're like you're doing great work with like these great playwrights and like cool actors, and John and you and Eddie would end up working together again decades later on Gone Baby Gone.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
Gone.
Yeah. So how does that go? You're like, okay, who's my partner gonna be, right?
That's exactly right. I was the first one cast in the film, because Ben insisted on having me for the character.
Yeah, nice.
Which I found out later, and that's a funny story because when he was doing Jiggity with Marty Brest,
yeah.
Marty told me that Ben came up to him one day and he said, "I want to be your next John Ashton."
Really?
Wow,
that's cool.
Because I worked with Marty twice, and Marty never cast the same actors twice, and I was the only actor that he ever did that.
Wow.
So Marty had told me that story. So anyway, Ben insisted on having me, and I did the same thing. I called and I said, "Who's going to play my part?" And they said Ed Harris. And I went, "Oh, great,
nice, nice,
full
man.
circle."
Yeah,
that's great.
You guys had some fun on that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We were in Boston for 3 months on that.
Oh yeah. That must have been wild.
Yeah. Being the old school kind of elder statesman on the set.
Yeah.
That's great, man.
It felt good.
Yeah, it's great. You were outstanding in that,
Yeah, it's a great movie.
When John gets shot and Gone Baby Gone, he does this like really unique thing where he he takes it like it was a bug bite, right? Kind of slaps
like
his neck,
pest,
right?
Yeah.
And it's just so unique because it's like, the actor impulse like 99 out of 100 times is going to be to make some sort of production of it. But this is just kind of like almost like he got bit by a mosquito or something and then he drops.
Right.
And I've since stolen that at least a couple times.
It's a good maneuver.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, we shot that at about 3:00 in the morning in Boston, and it was late and everybody was tired, and the stunt guy did it first.
Okay.
And like you said, Ronnie, and Ben and I are sitting there looking at the monitor, and the stunt guy goes flying over the railing like he got hit with a howitzer or something,
A little dramatic.
Yeah, man. And we're looking at it on the screen, and Ben looks at me, he goes, "Hey, what do you think?" And I goes, "It was terrible."
Yeah.
He goes, "What do you mean it was terrible?" I said, "You wouldn't get hit like that with a 22. You wouldn't react like that."
Right.
So Ben looks at me with the kind of, "Well, you want to do it?" Kind of
challenge.
I said, "Yeah, I'll do it."
Yeah.
So I did it that way, because the 22 is going to hit you like a bee. It's
That's
like
great, man. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
I love
great
that.
decision. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cinematographer actually said to me after, he said, "That's one of the best death scenes I've ever seen."
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
It really is.
Good,
It's really unique.
Compelling.
And that was a nice compliment.
Yeah.
And I wanted to give the old thing to Ben, but
You were showing him the ropes.
Yeah. How do you meet John Hughes?
How did I meet him?
Yeah.
I had an audition for Some Kind of Wonderful.
Okay.
And it was right. I was actually a meeting because it was after Beverly Hills Cop came out. So,
Right.
he
Oh, right.
knew who.
Yeah.
So we just had a meeting and he wanted me to do it. And so I did it. And while I was shooting it, Howie Deutsch was directing it.
Yep.
And John was going to do She's Having a Baby in Chicago. And we were shooting Some Kind of Wonderful in LA. And he wanted me in She's Having a Baby too. And I said, "Well, I'm in LA." But he was directing She's Having a Baby and producing it, producing Some Kind of Wonderful. So he said, "I want you in Chicago." So I was doing both of them at the same time. And we got all this rain, and we got behind in production in Chicago. And then Howie's screaming for me to be back in LA. And I finally went to John. I said, "You're the producer, man. You tell me where to go, and I'll go." And he said, "Stay here. You're staying here." So I did. And one of the contributions I made, and She's Having a Baby. I don't know if you ever saw it.
Yeah, of course.
Kevin Bacon, right?
Yeah.
But Kevin's in Cop 4, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wow.
That's cool.
That's
Nice.
cool.
And we got a couple scenes in Cop 4 together, so that was fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But there's a scene in She's Having a Baby where he goes to that dance thing and he meets the young girl and all that stuff. And then he's got all this guilt and he goes home. So John, we're having dinner one night, John and I, and he said, "Well, we're going to shoot the scene where Kevin comes home and he looks through the window and he's kind of guilty about everything and he's lonely." And I said, "John, it's got to be Christmas time." He looks through the window, there's a Christmas tree, and he's not with the family, and he's got all.
Right.
And he goes, "That's it. That's the way I'm going to shoot it."
That's great.
That's
man.
awesome.
Isn't that nice? Isn't that great when you can like contribute something and then the director has no pretense about taking it. You know what I mean? Like taking the note, like, or, you know, I was a few months ago, I was in New York working on something, and I'm like in a twilight sleep, and I hear your voice on the TV, and I wake up and it's you and when in a scene from that movie.
Oh, really?
She's having a baby, and I think I texted John, said, dude, I'm waking up to your voice. You guys have that great musical number, which is so good. You know, that musical number. That looked kind of difficult to do, you know?
With the lawnmowers and stuff? Yeah, we rehearsed that forever.
It looked fun as shit though, right?
It was fun, but we rehearsed it for a long time because it was raining, and we were rehearsing indoors with the lawnmower. So
wow.
Well, I know you've talked about this a lot, so you got to forgive me, but I love to know just a little anecdote about the process of getting the first Beverly Hills Cop, right? I know that you were at a certain point, they got all the actors that they loved for Taggart and Rosewood. Is that what it is? Yeah. And they were doing kind of a mix match with the actors, right?
Yeah, well, I had auditioned 5 times for it, you know, because it kept changing. It went from Mickey Rourke to Sylvester Stallone to Eddie Murphy, you know. Right. So I went to all these different auditions, and I only read one scene. I read the scene where I punch Eddie in the stomach and stuff, and that's the only scene I read. So there were probably 30 actors that day, the last day of casting, and they were just matching everybody, and just by circumstance, they put Judge and I together. You know, they went down the hallway and went, you, and it was just total accident.
Wow.
And so Judge came over to me and he says, hey, man, what do you think about the script? And I go, I don't know. I never read the script. I only read one page.
Right.
So I had no idea what the movie was about. So he's hurriedly trying to tell me what the storyline is and everything. Yeah. And I said, to hell with it, man. Let's just wing it. We'll just wing it.
Nice.
So we go into the audition. Of course, there's 30 people in a room, you know, and the directors and the writers and the producers. And there was another guy reading for the captain. It wasn't Ronnie Cox. It was somebody else. And so in the middle of the whole thing, I looked at Judge and I said, would you stand over there for a minute? I want to talk to the captain alone here. And Judge kind of looked at me and went, well, okay. And he kind of backed up. And I looked at the actor and I said, can I get a new partner? Because this guy's a real fucking pain in the ass. The whole room laughed, and that's how I got the job.
Nice.
You know?
Wow, man. Wow.
And you guys had great chemistry, the way you reacted to each other.
Yeah. That's the thing. And the original script, the Beverly Hills Cop, Taggart and Rose were very minor roles.
Yeah.
But Marty loved our chemistry, and he kept letting us ad lib and add stuff to the characters. And we ended up having a major role.
That's so cool to hear that.
It's also like you got to be, you know, we were talking about this a little bit with Chris Bauer. You got to be open to these kind of impulses in the moment, and then like in a second's time, you got to be willing to take an impulse or an idea and execute it. You know, and you don't know how it's going to go over. Right. You know, first you got to execute it right. Yeah. And you know, but that's kind of where the talent lies. I think is just kind of is identifying these synapses or these impulses that come in a second. Right. You know, bringing them in, executing them. You know, because you're really writing and in a moment's notice. You know,
sure,
and
sure.
But that's the fun, right? Yeah. That's what keeps it alive. Yeah. That's brilliant. Man.
Yeah, and you know, those are the two questions. At least for me, this is when I'm creating a character or ready to do a scene or something. There's 2 questions I ask myself: what would I do in this situation, and what would my character do in this situation?
Right. Yeah.
And you got to find
you have to meld yourself into your character, you know. So
yeah, that's great, man. And then you kind of like in that moment, you just know, I think I got this, right? Like when you did that, when you made that decision in that audition, you must have felt like that gave you a leg up, right? I mean, clearly it did because you got the part.
After they laughed.
Yeah, you know, so. But Marty was fantastic. And then with Midnight Run, you know, I just love Marty. I've told Marty I'll work for free for you. You know, I mean,
Nice.
I love him. So, you know, and while we were shooting Cop 4, I was talking to Marty back in New York. So,
Oh,
you know,
cool.
uh, but um, but Midnight Run, when I came along, I was at a play. See, I was watching Joey Pants at a play, and at intermission, I was out in the hallway, and an actor friend of mine, Alan Vint, came up and he said, "So you're going to do Midnight Run, right?" And I go, "I don't know, I never heard of it." And he goes, "You know, you'd be great in it." And I, you know, of course, my crackerjack agents, you know, didn't, you know, so I called my agents and I go, "What's the deal with Midnight Run? Shouldn't I be auditioning for that or something?" And they said, "Oh, Marty Bress has directed it." And I go, "Are you kidding?" So I called Marty and I said, "Marty, what's the deal with Midnight Run?" And he goes, "Oh, you'd be great in it." And I'm waiting for him to offer it to me, you
Yeah.
know. And then he says, "But you got to audition for it." So I said, "Marty, what do I have to audition for you for?" You know, and
Yeah.
he goes, "It's not me, it's Bobby. He wants to audition everybody."
Gotcha.
Right.
Which is very smart on his part because he wants to choose who he works with.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
Right.
And to carry the movie.
So I went to that audition, and you know, there's 20 guys in the hallway freaking out because they got to read with De Niro, and I couldn't wait, man, because I read the script at that point, and I said nobody's getting this role but me, man, and
Yeah.
so I went in, and there's this Marty kind of let us talk a little bit together, and then he says, "Okay, let's do the scene." So I tell him, "Give me the keys, Jack. Give me the keys." And Bobby starts to hand me a book of matches. So I reached for him, and he just drops them on the floor and stares at me. And I look down and I look back up at him, and I said, "Fuck you." And he said, "Fuck you too." I said, "Go fuck yourself." So, but we did it in character.
Yeah, man.
That's great.
And I found out that as soon as I walked out, he said, "I want him," because
Wow.
he wanted somebody to stand up to him,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'll bet you every other actor picked those up and handed them to him,
Yeah.
and I just, fuck you, I ain't picking them
Yeah.
A fuck you battle with Robert De Niro. That's
man.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean,
and that's how we did the movie.
Yeah.
We were, so.
and also what a that must have been such a creatively liberating thing for you, because even though you had your funny moments in Cop, this is something like radically different than you'd ever done on screen, with Dorfler, what's his name?
Dorfler,
yeah.
Dorfler.
I mean, you know what I mean? So that had to be it just had the process of it had to be so much fun, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ronnie, I did, theater for years. I did a lot of different characters,
Of course.
doing plays,
Of course.
So I was so happy to get away from, because Hollywood, man. I was getting offered Taggart roles one after another.
Right.
And I go, I just
Typecast.
did that, man.
Yeah.
I just did that. I don't want to do it again,
Yeah.
And then when that came up, that's why I said I'm getting this freaking role, man, because I was such a different dichotomy from Taggart, And,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and we talked about it before on this, but like the kind of the shot callers in the business, they don't have much of an imagination, right? They
creative types.
They and I get why, because they got so much on their mind, so they're like, they think of something, and of course their concepts of who would be good for what is derivative of what you've done before, because it's like that's what they see in you. They get directors, producers, right? They remember people in snapshots, like they come up, and it's like they say, "Oh, this cop role. Oh, well, John Ashton." Yeah, they see you as the cop. So so to be able to do something like that, that seems like it was pretty outstanding. That's pretty cool.
I mean, like I did a play in 1976 called "The Last Meeting of the Knights of the White Magnolia" in L.A.
Yeah,
and it ran for 9 months. It was a big hit play, and and everybody came to see that play. I mean, I had Neil Simon came to my dressing room after, and,
wow.
and Charlton Heston came to my dressing room.
Man,
it was
Jesus,
legend.
I mean, everybody in town saw it. And I went to an audition for, I can't even remember what it was now, but I read it, and then they said, "No, can you do it more like Skip?" my character's name was Skip, and like, Skip, I'm going like, this isn't Skip. This is another character.
Right,
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's funny.
Those producers like those known quantities. It's like a formula they can follow that they have faith in, right? But then it takes away the creativity, it seems like.
Another that kind of reminds me of a thing that you'll get is like actors will hear of like people looking for like a John Ashton type,
right?
Or
but they don't hire that guy.
It's like, well,
John Ashton.
Yeah, John Ashton's right. We have John Ashton type. It's John Ashton,
and that must happen all the time.
All the time. I've heard so many stories about that.
Crazy.
That happened to me for real.
I'm sure.
I went in for an audition one time, and the kid that was setting the camera up and doing whatever he was doing, he finally says, "Well, I hope you get this." And I said, "Why?" He said, "Because they're looking for John Ashton."
My God, that's wild.
That's like equal parts hilarious and tragic.
Yeah, what a crazy time.
It really is. It's a bullshit. So, is it true that Robert Mitchum was a bit of a mentor to you?
Who?
Robert Mitchum.
Oh, Mitchum. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I knew Bob for 25 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How did you meet him?
God, he was amazing.
Through my ex-wife. Her parents had a ranch up in Atascadero, and Mitchum had a ranch up there, and their ranch was next to each other. So her parents were friends with the Mitchums from the ranching business. So I met them in LA and then, at their house. And then Bob liked me, and I got, I thought, Bob Mitchum. I mean, he did all these great movies, and we developed a friendship and a relationship, and he was a wild man. He was cool, man.
Oh, yeah.
Man, he's a true legend. Original Cape Fear.
I mean, I got a million stories, but some of them.
Yeah. Did you meet him? But so you met him like during like the 80s, like before you started, like before you blew up or after?
Actually, 76. I met him.
Wow.
I got married in 76 while we were doing Nights of the White Magnolia in the middle of the show, actually. And that's when I met him. I met him around 74, 75.
Wow. So he must have, I imagine he had he derived some sense of joy and pride from seeing you kind of take off and blossom in a career.
Yeah, man. And I was a struggling actor back in 74, 75.
Sure.
I mean, I was in the bar making $1.25 an hour. I was like, and then when I got engaged to my wife, it was like my ex-father-in-law kind of went, well, he's a bum actor and stuff. And Bob was always, yeah, but he's a good actor, and
nice.
Bob was always on my side, and he was rooting for me. And
wow,
it's great to have a champion like that.
Yeah, and what a bummer that you had an ex-father-in-law like that.
Yeah, that's rough.
So it was good. It's good to have Mitchum in my corner.
Yeah.
I bet, man. And what a cool thing, man. That's really, really neat.
He's one of the great screen actors ever.
Yeah. Well, you've been a bit of a mentor to me, so and a friend and a mentor. So I'm always grateful for you. We had fun on Uncle John.
You're a terrific actor, man. So it's good to be friends with good people.
Thanks, man. Yeah, we had fun on Uncle John, didn't we?
You did make me do a scene with a sandbag instead of you one night, but that's all right.
Oh, I got to hear more about that.
I don't think that's true. Is that true? Maybe it is true.
Yeah. Because you went to a film festival for Joe.
Yeah.
Oh, that was during the same time. Yeah.
And you left the set in Wisconsin and flew to Venice.
Yeah.
Oh, it was Venice.
Yeah. Well, I think to be fair, I think it was maybe one of those things where they maybe didn't tell me. They maybe wrapped me, and it's not like I consciously knew.
Well, Nick Cage told you to come to Venice. Right?
Yeah.
Well, instead of strangling Ronnie, I had to strangle a sandbag.
Yeah, not nearly as fun.
You just reminded me something of one time me and John were talking about. John's worked with Nick Cage as well.
Yeah, sure.
I love Nick Cage. He's the best. He's one of my favorites. Yeah. But here's this one time that John was talking about, like, you're sitting around with all these actors and Nick Cage, and you guys are always you guys were talking about your bad jobs you've had, and
really?
like didn't he throw out some kind of benign like one day of a bad job he had to do? Now it's not. Now it's does this sound familiar to you?
Huh?
Does this sound familiar to you? Like Nick Cage?
Oh yeah. We were doing Trapped in Paradise.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that one.
Up in Canada, and it was like 20, 30 below. I mean, it was brutal, man. It was brutal. And they had this coffee room so we could stay warm in between takes. And so me and Nick Cage and a bunch of other character actors and stuff, we were all sitting in there. So all these character actors, we're all telling these lousy jobs we've had through our life and stuff, driving flour trucks and, and
yeah.
I worked on a freight docks in Chicago, and we're doing all these. And Nick is totally silent. He's just sitting there listening.
He's a Coppola.
Finally, he wants to contribute to the conversation, so he said, what was really humiliating for me, man? And we went, what? And he goes, I had to take the bus to Beverly Hills High School.
So pedestrian.
And we kind of went, oh, you poor bastard.
Oh, wow, the bus. Well, he grew up in Hollywood royalty, right? So
that's really funny.
That's hilarious.
Oh my God, that's really fucking funny. Yeah, hats off to him though. Like,
oh yeah,
people who he has this incomparable drive, you know what I mean? And
he works nonstop.
I always fucking applaud people who are born into comfort and still have this this incredible drive,
Yeah, it's
because oftentimes it goes so much the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah, because you didn't have to work that hard. Yeah.
No, that happens to a lot, But
yeah. When are we going to get you a walk on the a star on the Walk of Fame, man?
Yeah. Should get you on there.
I know, man. Do you have to pay for those?
I'm sure you can.
I want to talk to. We got to talk to Alan, man. Get you set up.
Should be next to Eddie's.
That would be seriously. That would be the great time because you got Cop coming out.
Yeah.
Do you guys know if Cop's coming out this year or early next year?
I have no idea, man.
Yeah.
I got to do some ADR on it in a couple of weeks, so we're still editing it and stuff, and I hope it comes out this year. Ronnie, the actors are the last ones to know.
Sure.
So, but I'm hoping, they're still doing it. I heard they had a couple of rough cuts for studio people.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine got into one of the screenings and he texted me and he said, he's got an NDA too,
right.
Non-disclosure agreement too, so I can't talk too much about it. But
sure,
I mean, I could tell you stuff that's already out there, like Kevin Bacon in it and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but it was fun to get back together again with everybody. It was.
I bet
it. It was like we never left. It was so weird, man. We got on the set the first day and it was like, "Hey, man, how you doing? Let's go to work." It was like,
wow,
like we never. It was yesterday.
Wow.
It was crazy.
Would you? Yeah, so you're
like if you and I went to work together, we haven't worked for years, we'd be like, okay, let's go to work.
Yeah. So when you're on set like with Kevin Bacon, right? Do you guys Mike, do you guys kind of recant old stories about working on movies a few decades ago, that kind of that's cool.
Yeah,
that's really
actually
cool.
And we were talking about shooting in Boston and stuff because he did Mystic River with Clint Eastwood in Boston.
Right.
So, we had very little time to talk. We were pretty busy all the time, but but it was fun. It was like, we hadn't seen each other in 30 years or something, so it was cool.
Yeah. And Eddie, you hadn't seen him in a while, right?
No, it's been a few years. I went to a party. Bruckheimer had a big party for his birthday or something back in LA a few years ago. And I saw him back there for that. But other than that, Judge and I see each other more often because we go to some Comic Cons together and we talk on the phone a lot. So Judge and I stay in touch pretty much because of the Comic Cons and stuff. Because they always want Taggart and Rosewood. They don't
together.
Want just Rosewood.
Well, right. And that's
pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's you always want you always want Taggart and
buddy
Rosewood,
cops.
and that's what went wrong with the one that you weren't in.
Well, and they wanted me in 3, but Jerry Bruckheimer wasn't producing. I love Jerry. Jerry's a great producer, man, and he didn't produce 3. There were other producers. The script was terrible. John Landis, they sent me the script. I read it and I talked to John and I said, John, the script what is going on? And he goes, oh, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. I mean, they had us all separated, Eddie was over here,
right.
Judge was over here. I was, and I said, we got to do this together.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
I mean, Eddie says in the second one, we're the 3 Musketeers.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why people love it. Chemistry.
You're separating all of us. You can't do that.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. I hope that we get.
I did a little big league instead, actually.
Yeah. Well, that was a good one too.
Yeah.
I hope that there is that. I know you can't say much, but I hope there is that whole dynamic of like you and Eddie and Judge and like the ball breaking and I just love that's when that series franchise works the best.
Yeah, the screen chemistry is amazing.
So
I wish I could tell you more. I wish I could tell you more, but there is that in there. I'm telling you, it's the script's really good. Mark Malloy was a terrific director.
He's good.
Yeah,
there were it's going to be really good. I'm really proud of it. And
I can't wait to see it, man. I can't wait
either.
Yeah,
I'm looking forward to it too.
And I can't wait to see I just can't wait to see the whole, all of it. You know what I mean? Like you kind of doing the publicity for it, the thing. And I know there's going to be moments that I've just got to look and just feel so like happy and proud for my boy up there. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, that's great. And congrats on that.
So this, I know we're in the middle of a strike, but did you have some things that were cooking before the strike happened, or do you have things that are happening and like in spite of the writer's strike? Or
well, I'm working on some stuff to do. Nothing definite yet. It's all talk right now, but
sure.
Now it's actually the strike's going to give us a little more time to prep it and stuff. So
it's probably good.
I really can't talk about it either, but the strike, I'm totally for it.
Of course,
it's long overdue.
Yeah,
it's long overdue.
It's an important one.
Yeah, we were talking about Little Big League actually, and I shot that in '93, and that's when the ball players, because I was working with a lot of ball players, they were going to go on strike, and they did. And look at the money these guys make now.
Yeah, that was huge.
And the actors have been getting screwed for years, and I have always said. It's just me, but I have always said, I think everybody should get paid the same, right? Off the board, everybody gets paid the same according to your character, right?
Right.
And then everybody gets a piece of the picture.
Right.
So
back end, yeah.
If the picture doesn't make any money, they haven't really lost a whole lot because everybody's getting paid the same, right?
Right.
But if it's a success, the actor should share in that success.
Yeah.
Of course, 100%.
And I mean, look at the ball players now. I mean, these guys are making insane money. And in our business, look, the studios, they're making insane money, and the actors aren't anything.
Yeah,
it's just ridiculous. And I'm so for the strike.
Oh, me too.
Yeah,
I mean,
for sure.
About time we deserve to get paid. If it's a successful hit movie, we should be part of it.
Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's also because there's a media blackout. It's hard not to know what they're talking about because they've been the Screen Actors Guild. It's been almost a week since they've been negotiating. WGA is they've walked away from each other at the table, so they're going on day like 38, 40,
locked up,
right?
Yeah.
So all these, the WGA, the DGA, they made their deal,
settled,
but now the actors are in the middle of negotiating, and it's just hard because there's a media blackout. It's hard not to know. You hope because it's been a week and they haven't walked away throwing their hands in the air that it's been
something's happening.
Progress,
Yeah.
but you don't know.
Yeah.
And we were talking about it earlier.
Well,
it's
the last time we negotiated was I don't know 10 years or so ago, and that was when all the streaming and all that stuff was just starting.
Yeah.
And they, well, we don't know. It's a new business, and we don't know how they knew how it was going to go.
Of course,
they knew how.
Yeah.
And we walked away with that negotiation with nothing.
Yeah.
So hopefully these guys are going to, dig in.
Yeah. Hope they got some good lawyers.
I hope so, man, because they have it. But I just it sometimes the vitriol seems so like it just seems so intense, like the narrative of like the studios being the bad guy. Sometimes it just seems so nasty, but I guess that's just the way these things go, right? That's just kind of the part of the negotiating, right? I guess.
Ronnie, I mean, making a film is a team effort, and the team should share in the success.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Not just the owners. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And the points in a movie, that's kind of like like our engineer producer was saying, but even when they do give you points in the movie, it ain't worth shit. I don't, I'm sure you've gotten points in a movie. How many times you collected?
You're going to get points of a net. You ain't going to see a dime.
Yeah, right. Because they can funky with the accounting.
You got to get points from the gross, or net. You ain't going to see anything.
Yeah,
right.
I don't think Beverly Hills Cop 1 ever made any money to this day. So
Yeah. 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 There's so many close calls. I mean, so many so many times that like the next Beverly Hills Cop was kind of posturing to go, right? Eddie, there's a script that Eddie hadn't read it, but like it must have been so fulfilling to finally have this whole thing come to fruition. Yeah, it's really cool, man. It's really remarkable.
Well, when I got the script and I knew Jerry was involved, I was, I read it and I said, I'm in, man. Mm-hmm. And I had Mark Malloy as a new director, from Australia, but they called me and I flew to LA because Mark wanted to meet with me. This was way before we started shooting.
Yeah.
And I flew to LA to have a meeting with Mark. And I went into his office, and one of the first things he said is, "I want to bring this movie back to the '80s." And I went, "That's what I wanted to hear, man."
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah. Well, what does that mean, though?
Well, the energy that the '80s had. The '80s movies were great, man. They were. Look at the movies that were done in the '80s, and the one thing great about Marty Brest, and it's happening in this one too, but Marty is really, because I did an interview and they asked me the difference between Marty and Tony Scott. Tony Scott directed the second one.
Yeah.
And Marty is very, very character story driven guy,
Right.
He likes character relationships and storyline and things like that. And
right.
And Tony more of he wants the blow ups and special effects and all that stuff. So it was different, but it was the same. Because Eddie and Judge and I had already established our relationship from the first one. So Tony really didn't have to worry about that. He worried more about the visual effects and stuff. So
more of an action guy.
Right.
Tony was great. Tony was great to work with too. But I mean, that the movies now are just, there's no personal connection with the characters. Right. It's all robots and stuff. And,
it's more stiff.
Yeah, man.
Well, that's just the 80s, that those two movies, like Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run, the tone of that was like comedy action. That just isn't a thing they do anymore.
That's true.
It's so entertaining to have that that kind of comedic chemistry with an action movie.
Yeah,
you never see that anymore.
Yeah.
But with comedy, the way I looked at it, if you play the character and you play the situation, let the situation take care of the comedy.
Yeah.
You don't have to be funny.
Right.
You have to play the character and let the situation make it funny.
Sure.
Yeah.
And now all
was so
the guys today are trying to be funny. They're yeah.
Yeah, they're being clowns.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean that's not funny to me.
No.
Yeah.
I saw
That's just my opinion.
No, I agree.
Right
man.
on.
I saw I don't want to be a shit talker here, but some things are just so bad they deserve a little shit talked about them. But I saw the Night Court reboot.
Oh, right.
You know,
Yeah,
Night
'cause Ray
Court.
was
Remember
talking
Night
about
Court? Oh my goodness.
Was it bad?
It's so broad. It's so broad.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
like, what is like, wow.
Well, you can tell they have computers writing the scripts now.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just talking about like the comedy is so broad. Like these characters are like I couldn't do it. Like I'd be embarrassed to fucking do
cheesy.
it. It's not. It's so.
It's not ironic
broad.
at all.
Yeah, it's like they had this girl who's like supposed to be. I don't. I can't even. Yeah,
it's gotten so bad. Yeah,
it's just broad, like this broad, like yeah, exactly. Like it's like it's almost like it almost like it's fucking silly. It's just fucking stupid, and it's like it's so insulting. I guess some people get off on it. I don't know. But then you have like John Larroquette, who's in the minute because he came back. Yeah, and he's always brilliant. You know, he can't do broad. You know,
he's good.
So I'm wondering, like he's just sitting around like, fuck, what am I doing here?
Well, the studios just don't take risks anymore. It's just they just follow these formulas, and it's just you got Harvard MBAs running the studio instead of creative types. You know.
Yeah. Well, you got. Yeah, we need like you know who takes risks is A24. They take risks.
They're good. They make good stuff. Yeah.
They're kind of A24. You know, they did like Righteous Gemstones. They do really cool, creative, like progressive, like shit that like other people won't. You know what they do is they bet on tours. They bet on the director,
McBride, or somebody like that's got a point of view. It's kind of darker. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're kind of remind me a little bit of the United Artists back in the day, that made all those good movies,
Yeah.
And it's not like it's not like it's some big like revelation if you have schlock after schlock after schlock when something really cool like a Righteous Gems. Not why do I say Righteous Gemstones?
You mean?
I'm sorry.
The one with Sandler.
Not right. Yeah. The fuck did Sandler do? Not Righteous Gemstones.
Oh God, it says there's Gem.
What is it?
Uncut Gems.
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
Kevin Garnett.
Yeah, Uncut Gems.
Yeah.
Of course he gets nominated for all this shit.
It's
of course it blows up because it's like we're so hungry for something that's just not fucking
outside the box. It's like a unique point of view. Yeah.
Anyway, man. Yeah. That's cool, man. So what do you like? What do you want to do? You're like, what is there anything that you're like longing like to do? I mean, you've done so much in your career. Like, would you don't want to be in a series, or do you want to be in a series? Is there anything that you're just hungry to do?
I don't know, man. I did a series, long time ago, 89, 90. I did Hardball.
Richard Tyson.
Yeah, we did 18 episodes. We were guaranteed 13. We did 13. They picked us up for another 5. But we were on Friday night against Dallas. And Dallas was
tough
a
slot.
Show. Yeah. We didn't have a chance, and that's the thing that drives me nuts about television. It's just it's all about the numbers and the ratings, and and it doesn't matter if it's good or not, as long as it's in a good slot.
Right.
And I see these actors that are in hit TV shows and they walk around like they're king or something. And I just want to say, you got a good time slot. Shut up.
Right, right. Yeah.
Please, I mean, it's just ridiculous. And it was hard work, man. I mean, it was long hours, and I was never home. I slept in my trailer half of the time. And, it's grueling work, man, and I don't know if I'd just get bored with it after a while, I mean, so I like to do different things, and doing the same character day after day after day gets a little tiring, and
a limited series might be fun, right?
Yeah, right. Like HBO type thing.
Like a 8 episode, they're coming back with a lot of these limited series.
A 6 or 8 episode thing would be cool.
Like a long movie.
Yeah.
That would be cool to do. We're actually talking about that now, but in this thing I'm gonna do. But anyway, doing a series is it's I've always said the only actor's medium is stage, because film is really a director's medium, and television is the producer's medium. All they care about is selling products and the ratings, and that's it.
Right.
But you get on stage, that curtain opens. It's your deal, man. Nobody can yell cut. You can't do it again.
Right.
You can't, and so stage is really the only actor's medium there is.
Yeah,
It's
pure.
Right.
I mean, second would be film, and TV would be last for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, yeah. I mean, even like, there's so many things working against, and particularly in network television, there's just so many things that are working against you as like
An artist,
a creative entity.
Yeah.
You're like,
I remember we were shooting hardball, and we were on location in Santa Monica or something on the street. These two old ladies came up to me and they said, "We love your show. We just love your show." And I said, "Thank you very much. Thank you." And they said, "Well, we watch Dallas, but we tape your show." So
wow. Wow.
so I said, "Why don't you watch our show and tape Dallas?"
Yeah. Yeah.
So they were getting the ratings and we were getting taped.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Doesn't count in the
So,
scorebook.
there's so many things out of your control
Yeah.
on television. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And even crazier now with the streaming.
Yeah, I mean but then now we've run up against a little bit of like this. It's good news that there's so much, content and shows and film because of all the, the streamers and the networks. So it is good that there's such an abundance of work. But on the other side of that, it's like so much good stuff gets buried. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you can't even afford to be good. You have to be like outstanding. Otherwise,
Right.
like
It's got to be like Emmy award winning.
yeah, it has to be something that's just so unique.
Right.
Otherwise it's like no one's, because it gets lost amongst the shit ton of other stuff.
There's a lot of content. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well,
man.
somebody talked to me about the Academy Awards, and I'm in the Academy and everything, but somebody talked to me about the Academy Awards, and I said, you don't earn those, you buy them.
Yeah, it's all political, right? You campaign for it.
That's exactly right.
Well, and if you don't have the money to market
Right.
your performance or the show, you got to have the money to market all that stuff and get the publicity out there. And I mean, there was a movie, and Marty Brest actually told me about the movie because I hadn't heard about it. And the girl was nominated for Best Actress. To Leslie was the movie.
Yeah.
And I think it made $27,000 in the box office.
Right.
It was just a little independent film.
Yeah.
And Mark goes, "You got to see it." And I watched it, and she was fantastic. She was terrific.
Yeah.
But she didn't get, you never heard about her because they didn't have the money to push her.
Right.
So
Yeah.
swept under the rug.
In fact, I was pleasantly surprised to see that even kind of
nominated.
that got nominated,
everybody was.
yeah.
Everybody was surprised.
Because it's like, I mean,
And the ones that were nominated were kind of,
Right.
yeah, because it's all obviously like, you don't, how is it that you have the same fucking actors and the same actresses that are, the same group of 20, 25 actors that are always getting nominated every fucking year, it's like, and you know what I mean? It's always the same studios. It's, it's like, it's not, it's not real. I mean, it's all architected.
Yeah, for sure.
That's the business, man. Someone came up to me the other day at my club.
Yeah.
And they, and he mentioned a podcast, and I said, I don't know, I never heard of it. And he said, well, I listened to it, and Brian Koppelman was on it.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I guess he's
Billions.
the showrunner for Billions.
Yeah.
The producer. And he said this guy told me, he said Koppelman talked about you for 10 minutes on this iPod.
Wow.
And he was wondering why John Ashton didn't have a bigger career than he's gotten, and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, wow.
And he said, they talked about you. He said, and so I said to the guy, I said, it's all about this whole business, really. There's a lot of talented, really talented people out there. It's all about representation and connections.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can be the most talented guy in the world. I mean, I've had crappy agents my whole career. I mean, and I'll say it. I don't care.
Right.
they know who they are.
Right.
But after the first Cop came out, I had a very small agent, and Cop came out, and I could have gone probably anywhere.
Right.
But my stupid loyalty, I said, well, now they got something to work with, so I'll give them a chance, And
Right.
I ended up getting two lines on Buckaroo Banzai and 18, and I could have been doing, but
Yeah.
Right.
it's all about representation and connections and
timing,
those
right? And
people that are always nominated, they're all in this little clique, they all have this little thing, and if you're not in it, you're out. It's like it doesn't matter how talented people, and there's a lot of talented people that aren't working, and there's a lot of untalented people that are making a ton of money. So
yeah. I mean, well, that's just it. And money is is behind all of it.
Controls
because
everything.
it's like it's also like these independent film festivals. There's nothing really independent about it.
No.
Let's look at the top 10 films that were
At
bought
Sundance.
at Sundance last year.
Yeah.
It's it's gonna they're fucking
$50
we can look
million,
at it. It's gonna
$100
be
million
a fucking
movies.
studio
Yeah.
behind it.
Yeah, of course.
There's nothing independent. You know what I mean?
No.
Right.
You talk about the Independent Spirit Award? I mean, I don't even have my phone because it slipped. But
It's
who won the Independent Spirit Award this
wasn't
year?
it Emily the Criminal? Or she was nominated.
Oh, you know what? Well,
That was a good one.
if she was nominated and that was
I don't think
nominated,
that
then
won,
that definitely
That was a good one.
the exception, not the rule.
Yeah.
But a lot of these guys,
Maybe they didn't win though.
there's nothing independent.
Well, independent is a genre now. It's not real. It's not really independent.
It's not real.
It's just like a way to tag something as
Yeah.
like a label.
But
you
isn't
know?
independent supposed to be
It's supposed to
independent
be-
of studio financing?
It's not literal anymore.
Like, it's supposed to be private
be
financing.
independent of the studio.
yeah, that was the idea. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, but I if we were to look up like the top acquisitions of Sundance this year and the all the nominations of the Independent Spirit Awards, we would probably find that there's not much independent of studio financing about any of it.
No. definitely
Which means it's fucking bullshit.
not. It's all bullshit.
And you know what I mean? Which means it's not right. Like it's like and I get it. Like doesn't there seem like there would be a fucking market for something truly independent, like a truly independent film festival? But the rub exists that then you need, like, in order to bring money to it, you need these like namey type people, which brings the studios in. It's all kind of,
It's all business.
Well, the Spirit Awards when they first started was an independent.
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I went to it years ago in Santa Monica on the beach and stuff.
Yeah, still do it there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I went to it years and years ago, and it was pretty much of an independent, but now it's not. It's all studio stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's a distinction between corporatized, like you can have like financing by a sponsor. That's a totally different thing. I'm talking about like, anyway, I don't even know how we got off on this.
Do you guys
man,
want to
'cause
hear
it's-
the films that were nominated?
Yeah.
It was Women Talking, Tar was awesome. Our Father the Devil, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which won the Oscar.
Yeah.
And then Bones and All, which is Timothy Chalamet, huge. So 3 of those movies are studio movies.
Yeah. Everything.
So,
everything all at once. I mean,
Won the Oscar.
That was cool. It was a high concept, but
But it
that
was,
was a studio film,
huge
right?
budget. Yeah. So I don't know. They're not really indie.
Anyway, I don't even know how we got on this, John. But
We digress.
Yeah. But I'm excited. I'm excited for you. And I'm excited for all the shit you got coming up. I cannot wait. I hope we just power through these negotiations, the SAG and
back to work.
WGA works their stuff out so we can get back to work. And I can't wait. I can't wait for Beverly Hills Cop 4, man.
Yeah,
I'm
I
so
can't wait to
excited for you.
Yeah.
And it's all the time we have with you. But I love you, brother. And we're really grateful that you came and did our show, man.
Yeah, thanks, John. It was really a
Oh,
pleasure.
We did 2 shows together. We did Death in Texas, and
Yeah.
Uncle John together,
Yeah.
and we will be working again together, I'm sure.
I hope so.
I hope so, my brother. All right, man. Much
Man,
love.
I'd love to see your career going the way it's going. I love your work, and I love to see you succeed. And
Thanks, man.
thank you for having me and listening to me babble.
I love it, man.
We should
It's
do
been
part
so
2
great.
after the show comes out.
I'd love to have you back after the show comes out.
Yeah.
Is that okay? After the movie comes out?
Oh, absolutely. Then I can talk about
Then
it.
you can tell. That's what I was thinking. The inside scoop.
Yeah. All right, man. Much love, brother. Let's talk soon. Let's go get a steak at Dantana's, okay?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
You bet. You bet. I'm in there, man. I'm in.
All right, Bob.
Thanks, Sean.
All right. Talk soon, Bubba. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.